Alex and Kris save podcast.
You stupid rock.
No, he's bibbles. I want to know, first of all, if it met your expectation, if it was exceeded, if people should be excited for all those things.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, God.
Welcome to The Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris.
And today we have one review for you, one big review of the latest release, Project Hail Mary, from directors Chris Miller and Phil Lord. I was almost going to say Chris Lord and Phil Miller then. I almost got it the wrong way around.
And is it Chris or Christopher? I feel like I hear both all the time.
Yeah, Christopher's the full name. He seems like the kind of guy who would go by either, you know? How do you feel?
I'm a Christopher.
He seems accommodating.
Yeah.
And I'm an
Alexander. It makes me feel like I'm some sort of like anthropomorphic animal from a children's book if someone calls me Christopher. It feels there's something so like juvenile and quaint about it. I don't know. It's not me.
I'm not an Alexander in my mind. In my mind, I am fully an Alex.
Because to be Alexander, you have to be like strong and you know give that manly aura, and you just don't quite have that.
Yeah, agreed.
Yes, you do in spades. And like, we're talking about the most manly movie ever made today. No, it's not. It's not The Martian, the ultimate dad movie, but it's Martian adjacent.
It's not far off. So yeah, based on a book by the same author. So the author is Andy Weir, and he wrote Project Hail Mary. I think it was like 2020, 2021. It came out. So, and it came out pretty much with Ryan Gosling attached to it. So they immediately had a plan to adapt this film. So, yeah. And then I ended up catching up with the book literally last month. It was one of those books that I'd had on my radar for a while, and I knew they were turning it into a film. And I just hadn't gotten around to buying the book. And then I think it was like November last year, I bought the book, decided to wait for a minute because I had like Wuthering Heights to read and stuff like this.
Oh yeah, your priorities.
I had my priorities, and then Wuthering Heights took me a little bit longer than I thought, and I was like, shit, I gotta read this. I don't want to be spoiled by the film because I'd heard it was this like such a entertaining read. And I literally like whipped through this in a week or two. I was a massive fan of reading this, and it was just before all the marketing started to kick in quite so heavily. I dodged a few of the trailers, but yeah, I wasn't as in the know as to where it might be leading. But I don't think.
I think you're underplaying it, sort of. I think you were loving reading this book, and I remember we were catching up quite on the regular, and you were so enthusiastic about this that it almost made you like it was different from the Wuthering Heights thing, where it's just like I'm intrigued about catching up with this thing, seeing where it goes. But this was like, oh my goodness, did they nail this? And this could be like one of my favorite movies of this year. And no pressure. So I felt that. I felt that for you. And you're by no means one of those guys who's just like, it's got to be the book on film. And you like, we appreciate on this show that adaptations are adaptations. It would be boring if they were just straight carbon copies of their printed equal. But this is sort of both for you, maybe. As true to the source material and its own thing.
Yeah, I would say so. It is a slightly different beast, even though in terms of the true kind of arcing story of the film, it kind of. Or the arcing story of the book, it captures all the big points, and then in terms of like some of the minutiae, it doesn't go as into detail. And I do think the book ends up being quite a good companion to the film in the way that, like, Kris, if you wanted to go and read Project Hail Mary now that you've seen the film, I feel like you would still get a lot more out of the book in terms of kind of like really getting into the nitty gritty of the sciencey stuff of it all. A few other kind of like tidbits of Earth and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we're kind of beating around it a bit because I don't want to spoil things too much. But that being said, I think we do jump into spoilers in the not too distant future because I think it's a difficult film to kind of talk around some of the bigger elements, especially the elements that make up a big kind of emotional section of the whole story. Yeah. So in terms, I mean, should we just go for like headline, what we thought about the film right now, and then we'll jump into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, sure. I want to know first of all if it met your expectation, if it was exceeded, if people should be excited for all those things. I want to know.
Yes, and yes.
And oh god, yes.
Yeah, man. It met my expectations. Obviously, they were not long grown. I only had to wait a few weeks for this film to come out after finishing the book. So in terms of people who have been waiting for a long time, maybe they might feel differently. But to be wrapped up in this kind of world of this book, of this film, for the last couple of months, I guess, has been just an absolute delight. I really love the world that Andy Weir has created, and I love the world that is then depicted on the screen. I think it is I'm gonna say about like 80% faithful to the book, maybe even 85% faithful to the book. There's like a few little bits which we can go into later, but like, again, in terms of a film adaptation, I think it's fantastic. In terms of a film, I think it works, and I think some of that I will have to get from yourself as well, Kris.
Yeah, sure.
I kind of go in like not like very fresh off of the book, so some of the bits in my mind that make sense in the film might not make sense to yourself because you're like, oh, they kind of maybe you felt like some parts went fast and some parts went slow because there's definitely an element of like when you take 2 weeks over a book. And then you go in and watch the whole thing play out in front of you within 2.5 hours. You're like, oh, bam, okay. That sequence felt like days for me because it did take days, reading a few chapters every night kind of thing. So there is that element to it. But yeah, to be fair, I just think this film as a whole is a slightly different beast of a sci-fi than we've had recently. This is an upbeat, optimistic, I want to say emotional, but in like a kind of really nice way. And considering the state of the world right now, I think it is a nice tonic to everything that's going on outside, and does what a blockbuster should do. Absorbs you in, is pure escapism. But at the same time just has really good merits in terms of kind of its artistic flares and everything it's trying to say and do. And it's just a good collaboration between a lot of people at the top of their game in the film world right now. So, you got your directors, your composer, your cinematographer. Like, this is just, and obviously your actors and all that kind of stuff. It's just, everything is working on all cylinders for me. So, as somebody who didn't read the book, Kris, where's it sitting for you?
Yeah, I don't want to make this a ridiculous comparison exercise because we've talked about 2 adaptations this year, and the only thing that is comparable to them is the reason why they're being made. And when we talked about Wuthering Heights the other week, because it's the only comparison I have for this type of product, is that it feels like it was me. I haven't read both of these source materials, yet I could still feel the labor of love that was on screen for Project Hail Mary. This felt like something that had not necessarily been obsessed with. I don't think that's the right word to describe it, but you could definitely tell there's a deep love and affinity for wherever this came from or where it's the journey it's trying to take the audience on, because it is such a heart-wrenching journey and but it is also a comedy. And The Martian had elements of this, and I guess Andy Weir, I assume that's a big part of his books. It takes you really on this journey where at the start I was kind of wondering, is this going to be a little bit too cute? We're cracking jokes all the time here.
Yes.
They're pretty
much
much
some of them quite cheesy as well.
Some of them quite cheesy and a little bit maybe like, little bit reductive, but like it all grew on me
Mm.
And I don't mean that in a way that's like, yeah, it grew on me by the end of the movie. I quite liked it. No, it really, really grew on me. They do such a great table setting. It is a 2.5 hour movie, but they really do build you up to the moment where you first meet Rocky. They build you up to the moment of loneliness. All these different things are going on in the world, and kind of really bring you into the character, make him interesting. The plot framing of this film by jumping around in time felt like something that I didn't know where it was going, but by the end of it, it all just really came together, and I kind of felt emotionally walled by this movie at the end of it.
Mm.
Great music, like I said, it just feels like a product that's a really good combination of everybody who worked on it, like Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Incredible direction and incredible steering of this movie. Ryan Gosling, incredible. I mean, like, I feel like we watched The Fall Guy the other year, a movie you and I just didn't really get on board with, which is another film which is a Ryan Gosling vehicle where he's cracking out joke after joke, but it didn't work for me. And it's not that he's the problem; it's everything that's going on behind the screen. And the Daniel Pemberton score is a real standout for me, and like sort of like a propulsive element of the movie that went on as the movie went on. And I kind of really want to listen to the soundtrack now. I think you've been listening to the soundtrack in your spare time.
I have been. I think Daniel Pemberton is so interesting as a composer. Like, he's really
100%.
creative, and we saw that a lot with the Spider-Verse films. And there's a lot of creative stuff going on here. And I was listening to a couple of podcasts this morning, interviews with the directors, with Ryan Gosling, stuff like that, just to kind of get a sense of like the filmmaking behind it. I find it absolutely fascinating. But yeah, he really made a lot of effort to kind of, this score in one sense is this big epic sci-fi score, but it is tailored to be to give you a sense of the world is behind Ryan Gosling. He is, the last hope for the human race. So he's apparently recording percussion with children from different schools, then footsteps stamping on the ground, stuff like this, different musical instruments from all over the world to like create this kind of tapestry of sound, which is like not from one specific location, and then in doing so just kind of lifts the whole film up. And like that kind of stuff would just go over your head as an audience member. But it just shows you if the effort is going into this element of the score, then and that's, there's everybody else is kind of putting this similar amount of effort into their different areas, then it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I realized we didn't actually, for anybody listening, because obviously we're still in the not spoiling section, we're in the spoiler free section, we haven't mentioned what the film's about, so maybe you've come here blind. Should we just quickly give a brief overview?
Yeah, we said movie good. No, we can talk about the movie.
Yeah. So, science teacher Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, wakes up in space with little knowledge of what he's doing there, and slowly has to figure out why he is there. And within the first kind of 10 to 15 minutes, you figure out that the sun is dying, and he has been sent on this mission, which is a Hail Mary, to kind of figure out why in our solar system, actually, is it solar system or galaxy? I feel like I'm being a really bad student right now of science.
I thought it was like sort of like it was expanding across the whole system. Yeah,
it was so solar system would be our little cluster of planets, right? And then
so I think
galaxy,
because they were talking
further
about
again.
Because other suns were being affected by this too, so it expands way further. Yeah,
but what I was trying to think was if I'd use the right word or not. That was it.
Well, solar system just kind of like goes towards, like
Pluto is the end of our solar system, right? Okay, so it's our galaxy. So every star in our galaxy has been affected by this, other than one. So the mission is they've sent the spaceship called Project Hail Mary there with Ryan Gosling on board. To figure out why, and hopefully be able to send information home, which will help save the planet. So,
and it's a one ticket. It's a one-way ticket.
It's a one-way ticket, and it turns out he's alone, or as they say on the book cover, or is he? So that's where we'll go spoiler free. I want to talk a little bit about Ryan Gosling. Actually, should we get into full spoiler? Should we just say from now on out, everybody, if you haven't seen the film, you got to go watch it. Probably best film of the year so far. I know there's not been many yet, but best film of the year so far. Kris and I loved it. Let's get into just like discussing everything about it. Is that, am I right in thinking that?
Let's do it, man.
Spoiler alert.
So beautiful.
Thank you. You touched on it previously, but the Ryan Gosling of it all. I feel like, and we're gonna skip Barbie out of this, but I think between like here and First Man, you've had the Fall Guy, you've had the Gray Man, and I just feel like maybe Ryan Gosling, all of a sudden, he wasn't in our eyes the big grab that he once was. Would you be saying that was similar? Did you? And I appreciate that's only like two big films that he's done with in between a string of amazing films. Like before that, you had Nice Guys, La La Land, Song to Song, Blade Runner 2049. So like he was on a string of like incredible films. Then you had First Man, which I think is bloody fantastic.
Yeah,
but then you had the Gray Man, which you're like, oh, okay.
I couldn't tell you one thing that happened in that movie.
I remember him fighting on a tram, and I remember Chris Evans having a mustache.
I remember Chris Evans just having the most ridiculous lines to say that just like made me laugh out of just sheer borderline embarrassment, but also an awe of him the whole time. But I was an outlier. That was a strange movie. Yeah.
That was an outlier. Barbie, he then obviously is great in. He's not a main character, but he's like a comedic relief. And again, everybody's just like, oh, Ryan Gosling is like this comedy genius. Like we should have known from The Nice Guys, but not enough people went to see The Nice Guys. And therefore he kind of gets like a second win in the comedy world. And then you go into Fall Guy, which I know some people liked, but famously, Kris, you and I were not big fans at all of Fall Guy.
I just do not. That still is like the big creator in my life, that movie, where I just see like, I just don't understand what went wrong. Like, I don't understand why I feel this way and why I feel like I'm in like Close Encounter, or the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where everyone around me is like, seems normal and happy, but I'm like, what's going on? Everybody wake up. I'm just like, I don't understand it. I know I'm in the wrong, but it's how I felt when I watched it.
I don't know,
and you
because
felt
I felt the same way, and I don't know.
Everybody liked it. Yeah.
What was it about that week in 2024 where you and I just like could not be asked to watch this film? We dragged ourselves to the cinema to do it, and maybe that was part of it.
I was kind of looking forward to that movie.
That was it, and I was.
It was the tone. It was the tone of that movie, man. I just like.
Yeah.
It just like. I don't know. I don't like things that find themselves funnier than I find them funny. I don't know. Maybe that's sometimes.
It did leave a bad taste in our mouths, though. Like, I wasn't excited for Ryan Gosling to be the main character in Project Hail Mary.
Okay.
Like, I was, cautious about him. And then I remember I saw one trailer before I read the book, like the very, very initial teaser. And I didn't think the film looked amazing at the time, but I still wanted to read the book, obviously. And I thought, I've heard it's a very twisty-turny book, so I will not watch anything else from here on out. But when I was reading the book, I didn't see him as Ryland Grace. And I do worry that maybe the Fall Guy made me feel like he had like Ryan Reynolds himself a little bit. And I don't know if that's being dramatic.
Yeah.
And then he's attached to the new Star Wars Starfighter film from Sean Levy directing, and I'm not a massive fan of Sean Levy either. And he obviously works a lot with Ryan Reynolds, and then maybe I was just in my mind, I was like, I think peak Ryan Gosling is gone. Like maybe his highs have been and gone.
I think they PG-13'd him for a while. And I think that's it. I think what we got out of something like Blade Runner, or that really interested us, and First Man, was that we were getting a sort of like a rough edge to Gosling that we kind of didn't see before, and that he was really capable of, and
Mm,
capable like in both of those films that I just chosen as an example. I was devastated, not really by the film, but by him, and I was really
mm,
impressed by his acting chops and how he could carry these quite intricate, very internal roles. And for somebody who usually is quite like an extroverted character, or like somebody who's now kind of a comedic character, that he plays in films. And I think this is kind of like a good meet in the middle project, Hail Mary, because the front load of that character is definitely carrying a lot of comedic weight, but
mm.
whenever it has to, he's very clever and very divisive, and like in terms of like using that to kind of make you care later on. And I think that's a marriage of him and Lord and Miller's taste and sensibility, is that their Lego movie tone really suits him, and
Yeah.
kind of reclaims that for me, like that he can be funny and can deliver pathos. um
Yes. And he gets
yeah,
his like famous Ryan Gosling scream out of the way at the start of the film.
yeah, which I laughed. It was
I
funny. It was
laughed too.
unexpected. It was unexpected.
It was unexpected. He definitely does play up the comedy of Ryland Grace. Like he's definitely a comical character in the book, but he I think Gosling hams him up even more, and he is definitely a slightly different variation of the character in terms of the adaptation. But I think it works for this film
Yeah,
because in the book it's from his POV, so it's all very internal. Everything that's going through his mind is very, very internal. So as soon as you come to adapt, how do you, especially for the first 40 minutes before we
yeah.
meet Rocky, he has nobody to bounce off of apart from a computer, but so he can only kind of do kind of slightly cringy, talks to himself, a few kind of recordings of himself, that kind of stuff. They have to play into that, and he has to be a little bit more kind of open physically with his emotions.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then he actually has to develop a rapport with a puppet CGI creature. One of the most well utilized like adoptions of that I've seen in a long time. Like he is so like, I do believe that this Rocky creature is like a real thing, and that he's like, he reduced me to tears. I'm like, I don't know what to say. It was
Yeah.
incredible, and I really love. I want to talk about the framing device, because not knowing the book, and I'm not sure how closely that is tied to the book too. Starting him off kind of in a later stage of where he is in the timeline of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that how the book follows? Because I kind of, when I was watching the trailers, I was like, it's kind of a space movie thing to kind of like, we start on Earth, we work our way up to the mission, and that kind of is a little bit fatiguing, that sort of trajectory in a space story. So I was actually really pleasantly surprised that we were going to get something handled differently. So I was really on board early on and forgiving about the 2.5 hour movie length, because well, at least I'm not getting like, I love movies like Apollo 13, movies like that we're spending the first half of the movie on Earth, and it gets a little bit lonely as we get to space. But it was
Mm.
nice just to shake it up a little bit. But was the book very similar that way?
It plays out almost identically in
Okay.
the book. So he wakes up. He spends a lot more time in the book not even knowing his name for, I think, maybe like the first chapter or so. Whereas
Mm.
and I think his name is the only way for him to access the rest of the ship. So that's kind of the thing, is like once you're more cognitive and aware of your surroundings after coming out of this coma, you know, we'll let you access the more kind of tricky
It's a
parts.
safety
So
measure.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, what's your name? And he can't remember his name, and then they
Yeah.
won't open the door until he knows his
Uh,
name. So then the flashbacks are basically his own mind repairing at the same time, in terms of
yeah.
going like, why am I here, and stuff like that. So yeah, it plays out almost structurally exactly the same. There's a few more Earth bits in the book, but I can understand why it's like, we don't need to go back and find out every kind of single bit of minutia of how they came to be, with all the different science elements of parts of the ship and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. He picks up. He picks
It's
up
great
like.
in the book, and it's a really good device, because like sometimes flashbacks can be so boring. But it was great because you'd be like, oh, I'm really excited about what's going on in space because it's developing the story further. And you'd be like, I'm really fascinated by like what's going on at Earth because like I don't 100% know why I'm even here.
Yeah, we're
So
not doing
really,
like a Slumdog Millionaire thing where it's just like he looks at like a pen and suddenly there's a memory of like why that pen is in his hand, and
yes. Though
it's
that's kind of how it is in the book sometimes.
oh dear. I think, but I think it's kind of really well timed in this story too. It's like you know, I really love Sandra Hüller in this film too, and I'd love to talk about her. And you say, I think from her private conversations, I think you might going to mention it now, but she's kind of perfectly cast for this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to see anybody else play her.
Oh, that's good. That's good. She's incredible. I mean, it's nice to see her play somebody like at least sort of nice.
Sort of nice, yes.
Recently, Driven, yeah, 100. I think that's the best way to describe her. But she has such a great moment later in the film. There's a karaoke moment that her character Eva has. That singing Harry Styles "Sign of the Times." It's in the trailer, but you know, it's adopted beautifully here, and it kind of had me sitting in my seat for a moment. I think the cast is great in general here. It's very much like it can get kind of broad in moments. If I'm going to say that I had any complaint. And there's not really many at all. But I did feel that the stuff on Earth, whenever we were having these sort of meeting of the minds, these sort of like Earth joining forces for good, everybody in a boardroom talking it out, and everybody's got a quick joke. The guy, he's like the head of, you know, the robotics has got a joke here, and the astrophysicist is going to say something funny. It felt a little bit cute for a moment. So, like, I was a little bit of me just kind of like, oh, I'm a little bit scared. This is going to just be the whole thing, and I'm not going to feel anything by the end because everybo's too busy having a good time. But I do
think there's a reason for that, though, and I think because the book can be very sciencey in places, and there's an intrigue about that, and the film almost like speeds over a lot of the sciencey nerdy stuff. But when you're on Earth, it's very much about like, what is astrophage and how does it work and how does it breed, and obviously the film does a little bit of that, but it kind of like goes like, and we've done this and we found out this and we found out this. So I think in order to keep the momentum and also your intrigue about the Earth stuff going, I think they had, especially in those early moments, like you said, they had to kind of cutesy it up a bit and just kind of be like, we don't want it to be a complete tonal shift every time we go back to Earth. We still want it to be a little bit jokey and fun, and you know, we don't want the audience to fall asleep every time there's a flashback. That's how I see it anyway. That's kind of my theory for it. I also think as well that the film kind of glosses over the political nature that you kind of, a lot of the politics that you find in the book, and like how all these countries are trying to like come together and not quite so getting it, and Strat as the character this has to cut through the bullshit and be like, I'm in charge and I don't care how many laws I'm breaking, we're saving the planet and this is how we're doing it. And I think if they touched on the countries coming together too much, I think it would be the most unbelievable part about this film.
Well, so. I don't even, I mean, like, apart from the United States, I'm not even sure if like a country is ever even mentioned in this movie. It's kind of like the world is nationless for this one mission. But you know, you gotta think, I think they're economic for a film that's 2 hours 36 minutes. They are very economic in terms of like, we know what the story's going to be. Like, this is what we have a goal, and the science part of it, the political stuff of it is not our goal. We're not making a Christopher Nolan film here. We're not making any sort of like an objective. We want to make audiences feel good. We want to like create a story that is resonant and anybody can step into, you know, regardless of how old they are. And I think that's a really good, I mean, that's why you hire Lord and Miller, to me, is that you make a film that everybody's going to like. And that's the thing. Do you think everybody's going to like this film? Because I think The Martian like did cater for, you know, a certain, maybe an older audience, because it was a bit more grounded in its science, and it's a bit more tangible, and you know, you're watching Matt Damon fix things in real time and there's progression, and this is a lot more, for lack of a better term, whimsical, and this is a lot more a little bit more wishy-washy with its science, and it's asking you to kind of buy into a bit more of a fantastical element. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be I think it's very broadly targeted, and I think it will do well because of that. And I don't mind that it's catering to the masses in a way, because I think, like I mentioned at the start, this is a hopeful, optimistic sci-fi of which we don't get many anymore. If we get a big budget sci-fi these days, it's usually a little bit dark and gritty and gloomy. I'm thinking of even First Man, of Interstellar, of the Dune movies, of Arrival. Like these big sci-fi films, they are fantastic. Like, give me 100 of them. I still bloody love them, but you don't get something that's quite so, I don't know, a palate cleanser as this, maybe? Like, just fun and
Because
enjoyable.
space is usually scary. It's always supposed to be a scary thing.
It's high stakes. It's high stakes, but it's accessible and entertaining.
Yeah, and it's something about that, like, it's very rare for me. I don't know about you, but it's very rare for me whenever you're enjoying something and you can feel that this is for everybody and it's a communal thing. And sometimes it's very hard when you're to kind of like, I don't know, I do kind of find it hard to enjoy things that are super broad to the point that like everybody can access it, because that usually means that there's got to be some sort of dumbing down of the script or the comedy at sometimes. And to actually kind of experience something that I know that everybody in the cinema is enjoying at the same time as me, and I am not annoyed by it, and I'm also equally enjoying about it. There's something really like sweet and communal about that too, which is so in tandem with the tone of the film, which is like, earth joining hands sort of thing. It's such a sweet, almost treacly sweet movie, but it doesn't quite get to that point where it's too treacly sweet. It's just about like, it's just nice. It's just like a nice experience.
Well, we haven't really spoken a lot about what makes it so nice. We've touched on Rocky a little bit, but it is this central.
I just don't want to get upset. I don't want to get upset again. That's why.
That's completely understandable. That's completely understandable. Yeah, the central relationship between Ryan Gosling and the alien he encounters on his mission, who he names Rocky, who is basically a sentient rock with spider-like arms. He is the engineer of his ship, and he is the lone survivor of this ship as well. And he is on the same mission from his planet, and Iridia, because he's an Iridian. Yes. And together they join minds to be able to solve the issue of what's going on with
they're mirrors to each other. They are perfect mirrors. They are both last ditch efforts from their own planet to save their own planet. They are both equally as not knowledgeable about the galaxy or the far-reaching ends of the universe as each other. And this is like a really big sort of meeting of curiosity. There's nothing aggressive about this. They're both kind of nervous about each other, although I think Rocky's a little bit more inquisitive. When they first meet, he's like throwing out little messages, like messages in the bottle, across to Ryan Gosling, who is ineptly trying to catch them and decipher them. And it's really great because you spend about like, it's like the inverse of Alien, where it's like 20 minutes, but I don't know what this is, and it's really scary. This is 20 minutes of I don't know what this ship is, what this creature is, but it's funny and it's cute, and I want to know what is going on here. So even though that's like the longest section of the movie, like the most prolonged portion of just these two meeting, I'm just leaning in the whole time, just kind of like knowing where this relationship is gonna go. I know it's gonna. I've seen the trailers. I know it's gonna be like. I know they
lean on it heavily.
Yeah, I almost wish that. I think it would have been fascinating for somebody who hasn't read the book. Of like, didn't even know there was this creature in it, because it doesn't come. Because the movie does a really good job at like keeping that compartmentalized from the movie and then that just becomes the movie. So that would have been such a really great thing. I know you would have struggled to keep that from me, but I think a lot of people would have.
If I knew that like that was they were not going to advertise it in that way, I 100% would have kept it from you. I 100% would have kept it from you.
It would have been hard, but I respect that.
They did lean heavily on it. I knew there was an alien going into it. I didn't know just how.
He's only an alien if you don't know him, though.
Well, yeah, okay. Into a different
that's rude.
A species from a different planet.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. But for the purposes of the show, I'm going to refer to him as an alien, Chris. Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Or an Iridian. And an Iridian.
An Iridian. That's it.
Okay.
We'll go for that.
So, yeah, I didn't know there was going to be an Iridian in it. Oh, no, I did know there was going to be an Iridian.
Just walking into the cinema screen. I wonder if there's going to be an Iridian in this. Yeah.
But I didn't know that this was going to be kind of the relationship that they were going to have, how this was going to all play out. I think they kind of spoil in the trailers that yes, they're going to have a playful and meaningful connection. When you're reading the book, in those opening scenes, I was a lot more like, where is this going to go? Like how they. I appreciate the book cover said he may not be alone, so like I guess they're gonna figure something out. But like how?
But then you can also think when you're reading a book, you're like, maybe this is just like a passerby. Maybe he's not here for the whole story. Maybe like he'll come and go, or like it's just a portion of it. But yeah, in the movie, you're just like, yeah, this is the second main character.
Played by James Ortiz.
Yeah,
or should I say, when I say play, I mean like he's an award-winning puppeteer for kind of theater and opera, and I think a little bit of film. He also voices the character as well, and they did I think like 99% of it on set. So for any time where you see Ryan Gosling with Rocky, he is kind of bouncing off a physical thing in that space. Now, no doubt, I imagine there still had to be a kind of lot of visual effects placed on top of that, even if it was just kind of removing puppeteers and stuff like that. But I think that's like fascinating that they were like, do you know what? This could have so easily have been a fully CGI character, and they were like, no, Ryan Gosling's good, but it would be helpful to have him play off a real person. And I imagine it just becomes like one of the Muppets, right? Like people always say, or should I say actors and actresses always say when they go on like the Muppet Show or they do something with the Muppets, even though you can see the guy working the Muppet, you're still looking at Kermit and thinking he's Kermit.
Oh, I never feel that way when I watch the Muppets. I never feel that like I'm watching a puppet. Like I know I'm watching a puppet. I'm not an idiot.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Like the actors like see the puppeteer.
Oh yeah,
and they still don't see the puppeteer.
Yeah, because they're just like the sweetest little guys ever. And like, could you imagine your life without the Muppets? I mean, come on.
I know.
And I'm struggling to imagine my life without Rocky now. Yeah.
I know. Oh, Grace and Rocky save stars.
And I actually think, and that is any other film that would have handled this material. I think they would have nailed the humor at the beginning and made the Rocky humor relationship, like they would have dropped the ball there. But this is actually where the movie gets like sweeter and funnier. Like their relationship. And I just feel like Ryan Gosling, I think it really worked for him. I bet he would have made it work with a CGI character anyway, but he just bounces off it so well. Like it's incredible like what they can make you feel for these two characters.
Exactly. And the fact that Rocky doesn't even have eyes, he doesn't look like a human character.
Well, the shape of him is very like it's genius, isn't it? Because he's sort of like an upside down like rugged pyramid with these with these little arms protruding outwards, but you really do get the feeling, like the sense of emotion from it all the time, and that's obviously the genius of the puppetry.
100%. And then you get all the comedy of like they are both smart people from their separate worlds, but one is more engineer based, and then you have Ryan Gosling who's more science based. They're both curious. They're both non-threatening. And then the comedy of errors comes in of like, my culture's like this and my culture's like this and we do things like that. Isn't that weird? Blah, blah, blah. And like all that kind of stuff is so cute and so funny. At the same time, they're moving the story along. They're working together to save the world. And yeah, it almost brings the stakes from being this kind of like world-ending thing to something a little bit more like internal and within the spaceship,
It
because
really
the
does,
stakes are
yeah.
like, I want to save these two people as well.
Yes, and Ryland is such an interesting character because we do get a lot of time with him at home. Kind of like we get I look at like half of his life. We don't get like a lot of his home life, but he's very much like a lone wolf. Somebody who's quite happy and quite happy to be a teacher, stuck in his ways, but really doesn't have anything that's sort of like super planting him on Earth. Like there's no real ties, and there's no real sort of like I know exactly who this person is, which actually
mhm,
doesn't, it's not a faux pas on the movie and the story. It actually just makes him more interesting. And
yeah,
whenever he finds Rocky, and there's a horrible moment later on, we're in spoilers,
we are.
where Rocky
I'm
makes
sorry if you haven't figured that out by now.
no, I'm sorry if we have not communicated that when Alex shouted spoilers. But there is a sacrificial moment with Rocky, which is like, obviously horrible to watch, and you're just on tenterhooks. And then Ryland has this option of going home from the help that Rocky gave him, like sending him back home that he never had the option of before, or he can go back to save his friend. And there's only one route he can choose.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense for that character in that moment. And you really do actually put yourself in his shoes.
Mhm.
I was kind of thinking like I was Ryland Grace the whole time, kind of thinking, well, I guess if I was this guy and my relationship with Earth was strong, but it was tumultuous, and I don't know what soulfully is there for me when I go home. I guess I'll be lonely in space with this rock creature, but I won't
Mhm.
be lonely because this is the most soulful interaction, I think. I mean, Sandra Hüller's moment kind of comes close, but this is the
Mm.
most soulful thing that you see from this character the whole movie. The guy that we see laughing and joking all the time, he is planted in this moment whenever he is with this creature. He is more three-dimensional when he is with Rocky. And it's so sweet. It's not cheap, it's not one-dimensional. We're throwing around words like cute and sweet, but it is more than that. And I
Yeah.
am thinking about the film quite a lot. Days afterwards, it is sticking with me more than I thought a romp in the galaxy would. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a
And
it's
that moment plays so perfectly as well because it completes Ryland's arc.
mm,
And his arc plays out in a way that for a minute you think like the Earth scenes play out in a way that you're like, oh, he hasn't volunteered for the space program yet, so something's going to happen to the astronauts, and then something happens to the astronauts. You think, well, he's the last chance, I guess, because the other astronauts have died. I guess he's going to volunteer himself now, and then boom, the big kind of twist, the big kind of third act shocker is the fact that he never volunteered for this. He would do anything to save the planet other than sacrifice his own life. And it
fascinating.
gets
Yeah,
into a play of like, what's the ethics of that, of the ethics of what Strat does, where she drugs him and sends him onto the mission against his will, knowing that he is truly the last hope and our best chance at saving the world. The ethics of that are scrambled, but this is earth-ending
yeah.
times, and then he has to figure out in that moment he is. Oh no, it's not that he has to figure out, but he figures out in that moment that there is something he would give his life for, that he would
Mm,
sacrifice himself for. And I think, if you had only watched 2/3 of this film, you could argue that Ryan Gosling doesn't have an arc. But it turns out it was a secret arc the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
time. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, this whole thing has been playing out in a slightly different way than I expected. And then, yeah, obviously, the revelation of this then follows his own kind of personal sacrifice for Rocky.
Yeah, and
Um,
I know the roadmap's already there, but I'm really proud of the film for having sort of like the bravery to kind of make that character have a moment. Like I don't feel it's disappointing because I feel like that character is a human character and that's whatever. But to give it the notion that this character is doing something disappointing for a moment
mm,
quite late into the story, where he's just kind of being Mr. Accidentally perfect and everybody
yeah,
and Mr. Charisma, and to see him kind of like cower and do something quite, like visually pathetic on screen.
Mm-hmm.
In the context of this story was really kind of, oh, pull the rug underneath me, and kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, you're giving me something different here. Like the film that kept doing that. It kept towards the latter half of the film just pulling the rug underneath me and kind of like readjusting my expectations of where it was all going to go. I know where it's going to go. It's going to go somewhere like hopefully nice and uplifting at the end. We're going to kind of shake hands in the middle of me in the movie here, but it definitely gave me some moments to ponder and challenged me, surprisingly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Because
just
you
like
can kind of see where it's going most of the time, I think. I think
yeah.
that's the only moment which is maybe a true surprise. Even, maybe there's, I don't know.
There's only so far you can.
Did you ever believe it was going to be a suicide mission? Because even when I was reading the book, I was like, they'll figure out a way. They'll figure out a way to send him home. Obviously, I know by the end he doesn't actually go home, but he's not dead. Still a happy ending. So I feel like that is the one true surprise, maybe.
Yeah, it's surprising. Like with crowd pleasers, there's only so unconventional you can go before it's not a crowd pleaser anymore. And I think that they managed to make as many artistic and like interesting decisions without it taken away from being I think they just really go as far away from conventional, but keeping conventional as they possibly can. I mean, it's as good as a studio film can get from that point of view, and keep everybody happy. It's a miracle these days to make a film like that. It really is, and kudos to them for doing it. But yeah, you're right. Did I ever think it was going to be like a one-way mission? I kind of almost expected it to be like Rocky can sort of find a way. I was almost a little bit nervous it was going to be like he'd go back with the Iridians and spend some time with them, and it'll be a bit like this guy, utopian life there. And it kind of is, but in a way that they kind of
they're not like, oh, all right, the end of the movie is him waving goodbye to Rocky again, and he's like, I'm back to Earth now. Oh, and by the way, they made me a ship that'll mean I only have to be on there for a month. It's double the speed of light.
Yeah, they find a way around it, but no, it is everything like you kind of want it to be and advertise. And I was like, first of all, I was very happy for you. I was so happy for you because you read this you read this book 10 years ago. You're so
no. My favorite book ever.
No, but it's really cool to kind of have like that's a really rare thing too. I think every time a book is picked up by a publisher or like by a distribution company, you're just like, oh, I can't wait for this to suck in a way, or just to go into the wrong hands. But in this case, it seems that Andy Weir has really good sort of like control over his projects, because it's as much as the author's responsibility as it is the filmmakers making sure that their own baby goes.
He attached the same writer as The Martian, Drew Goddard, who was a very famous writer and sometimes director. Not as famous in the directing world, but.
So Project Hail Mary was published in 2021. Is that what you're saying?
2020 or 2021, one of them.
So after The Martian, so that makes sense, because it doesn't make sense that he would make The Martian after, because this is like an escalation. It's like it'd be weird for him to make this movie and then his next book is about Mars. But yeah,
The Martian was his first ever book, so it's semi-famous the way he did it. So he released a chapter per week of The Martian on his own blog, and like everybody was like, "This is fucking great. You need to like publish this or self-publish this as like an ebook or something." I think he self-publishes it as an ebook on Amazon, so you can read it on a Kindle, and it becomes an instant bestseller because so many people just wanted it in that version ready to go. And
it's a really good way, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you have a built-in audience, then ideal, right? So
yeah, I think Brandon Sanderson did that with his like Stormlight books too, where he was like releasing like a chapter on YouTube like every or like on PDF like every week, and it's like that's a really cool idea, because like by the time the book is out, the word of mouth is kind of already done its job.
And he's very good because he kind of keeps a little bit of that, even though he now publishes the books, but he does like a weekly like catch up with his audience, doesn't he, on YouTube? Like every week he's got an update on like what's going on. It might only be like a few minutes, be like, this guy gets it, man. This guy gets it.
Developing the parasocial relationship with the reader. Yeah.
100%. But yeah, I mean, yeah, to get Drew Goddard on board again, which so do you know the podcast Script Notes, which is like a screenwriting podcast? So Drew Goddard did an interview on there recently where he was talking about it, and he did say he was reading it, like trying to figure out like, how do I get out of this, because I don't really want to have to like do this again, and like once was enough. I don't I know Andy now. I don't want to mess up this relationship and mess up his project. Like, I'm gonna find any way I can as I read this to why I don't want to do it. And he said he was like very much in that mind frame until the twist, or at least he alludes to the fact it's that twist of Ryland isn't there by choice. And apparently that just changed everything, and he was like, I have my in now, I know how to turn this into a film. So so there you go. It's a good interview, actually, if you're interested. Anybody, Script Notes, very good podcast if you're
so is this is this like an unconnected trilogy now? He's got another one?
Well, I know he has another book which came out before this and then after The Martian called Artemis, but I don't really know anything about that one so much. But I had a lot of fun reading this one, and maybe want to catch up with. Apparently, there's something in the works somewhere with that one. So
yeah, it's great to like. I actually was excited about the film, but I was nervous for Lord and Miller, even though that they're doing very well and they're very much in the producing world more now. But they've been dropped from projects in the past. Famously, they Star Wars got rid of them during halfway through Solo, and they got
crazy
Ron Howard, and it was a very much like, it felt like a funny movie mixed with a very safe movie, and ended up being kind of something very dull. And I hope they've got their track record is good enough now, where it's just like you can trust them. You can trust them with pretty much anything. And I was kind of watching the first half of this movie thinking, God, I would love to see a mainline Star Wars from these guys. That would be so cool. Maybe not now, but
yeah, I don't think they'll probably go back. Unfortunately, I imagine that's got a bad taste experience for them. Yeah, maybe one day when Star Wars is a little bit more willing to take a few more risks again, maybe they'll be back. But I think tonally, like, this would have been like, the tone is right for a Star Wars movie. I think maybe 100%. Star Wars doesn't lean as comedic at times.
The jokes at least the jokes would have been more well written.
Yeah, exactly. Like a Han Solo spin-off in this kind of tone, I could have seen working very well. But yeah, and oh, man, I'm not that they were in charge of the cinematography here. It was the director of photography was Greg Fraser, who did the Dune films. Like, it is a stunning looking film, and we went to go see this in the new Bristol Odeon IMAX, just an IMAX, just about an IMAX.
Creeps,
so
I can just about see the curve of the screen. It's
a big screen. It's
a nice screen. You still got the recliner seats. I felt I got my space. I was locked into the movie. But no, I'm not. I'm not the Willem Dafoe meme, So
no, it's definitely not a 70mm IMAX, is it? Even though it was shot, the space scenes were shot on 70mm IMAX, I believe, and then the Earth scene's not, and it does do a little bit of ratio changing.
I love the ratio changing.
I like it too,
and I loved, like, every time we left space and we went back in time, back to Earth, the camera, because there's a lot of zero gravity changes in this film with a lot of rotating parts, and when the camera would rotate and then plant us back down to Earth again, which was really cool. And then the lighting's different. I'm like, I'm in daylight. It feels like I just walked outside. It's such creative things being done here.
Spinning is a big motif, isn't it? And then you've got some of the kind of like the planetary scenes and the scenes where they put the kind of Petrova lens on it, so everything's very red. Like, just some of that stuff is just beautiful looking, shot digitally, but then they kind of transfer it onto film, I believe, from what I was listening to earlier. So that's where they're kind of like playing with it a little bit, so it's got a little bit of texture. It's not like a clean glossy film. It does have a little bit of depth and stuff to it. They built the whole of the Project Hail Mary, like the whole set is physical, so you can move around that space. There are some YouTube videos kind of going through that set, and it looks absolutely fascinating. And
I love
like,
that seat he has in the cockpit that slides.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
The sliding seat. Rocky, his world has a material they use called xenonite, and he's able to make a very transparent version of it. And when you're in the set, that stuff is all there. It's all physical.
Yeah, he's got his little crash.
Just amazing how much kind of detail went into it, and it pays off, because I don't think there's like one scene in this film where I was like, "Oh, that looks a bit dodgy." It all just works. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Oh, never. It's always stunning. Even when they have to lean heavily into the CGI and they go to like this gaseous planet where they have to, you know, there's a big set piece where they're hanging off the side of the Hail Mary. Even that is like stunning and beautiful.
Yeah.
It's always like a really clever deployment of lighting, like wherever it's hitting something, it just feels like there's actual real light coming from it. Yeah, I never felt like they were in the full space. I mean, I know that, but like it felt very authentic. It was really cool. And like even though you're having all these like garish greens and all these colors too, they managed to make it like a space opera. But it wasn't like Guardians of the Galaxy where I was just getting like, you know, the Skittles rainbow, like Big Dummy the whole time.
I like that too.
Yeah,
I like that too.
For that story, story, yeah.
I guess that is kind of a sci-fi film that is a little bit more whimsical now that I think about it, but not in the same vein.
Not in the same vein.
Not in the same way. But yeah, oh man, everything here worked for me. Should I tell you the one thing that like I took from the book, which I didn't feel like I got as much from the film?
That you were like, you think the film would have benefited from?
I don't know. Because I'm very happy with it, and I wouldn't want to mess with the magic of that whole experience.
It's a balancing act, isn't it?
It's a balancing act. But there was an element for me, and maybe this came across more in reading it because my partner is a teacher. So when I was reading it, and it was about a teacher, and a lot of the time he is talking about like, oh, how are my kids going to feel about this? I need to go back and like make sure my kids are okay. Blah blah blah. It's all about kind of like my classroom of kids, what are they going to grow up to be? What's the world going to be like for them? How many of them are going to die because we plummet into an ice age and stuff like this? And it was kind of a through thread, a thread that runs, a thread line that kind of runs through the film, or at least for me, the way I read it was, there was nobody better placed than Ryland Grace in that moment when meeting Rocky. Somebody who is, one, obviously knowledgeable about science enough to be able to do the scientific experiments to save the planet, but it is his kind of curiosity, his understanding, and I think biggest of all is his patience as a teacher, which allows him to be able to kind of interact and bring Rocky in, and together they learn about each other and they teach each other things. And you think, like, if you had somebody who was like more soldier minded, orientated, you could see somebody, I don't know, seeing Rocky and seeing him as a threat immedimmediately, right?
That would have been a frustrating watch.
Yeah, if Arnold Schwarzenegger was the last person in the Project Hail Mary to go up and say the Rock, he'd shoot Rocky on sight. You stupid Rock.
No, he's Pebbles. Something like that. But
that was really good. I like that. But do you know what I mean? So like that teacher motif really kind of hit me quite emotionally there, obviously from my own personal life as well. And then in the end, I didn't see the ending coming at all, where he's on Iridian and he's not just kind of surviving. He goes into this space and he is teaching again, because that is his calling. That is what he loves to do. And that is what he's supposed to do. And I think like the line in the book is just kind of like 12 claws raise their hands. And like, I think it ends on that. And I just like this wave of emotion just came over me as I finished.
And the
that
Pemberton score
sentence.
is like the choral, like sort of children singing.
I wasn't sure if they would end it in the same way at all. I didn't know, if they would just end it with him being on this beach with Rocky. I thought for a minute they might, but I'm so glad they went to the teaching ending. But yeah, there was an element of me that I think Ryan Gosling doesn't play Ryan and Grace as curious in the film. I think he's a lot more kind of like kind of goes with it. He's the everyday kind of guy, or the every guy. His the science stuff is kind of pushed down a little bit. I think his constant curiosity about astrophage, about the Talmiba, about anything to do with this whole scientific exploration stuff is just kind of pushed down a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
and it's more of a means to an end. So yeah, that stuff didn't hit me as much, and I kind of maybe just want.
I did believe him as someone who would meet a rock alien in the middle of space and accept it. Like, I believe that. Like, even if he's not as curious, he is very accepting as a human being, as a character. Like, nothing phases him. And I think they did a good job onboarding me to that. But yeah, I can appreciate like the science stuff in space is cool. I wanna like learn about this thing that doesn't exist. But I did to the nth degree. But it's really cool to learn. I love the theoretical side to space. That kind of, it's kind of fun to be scared by those things sometimes too. But maybe that's not what they chose.
Yeah, no, exactly. I guess the biggest kind of difference to see what I'm trying to say in terms of like versus what we got in the film is like when he wakes up and he can't remember anything, he doesn't know he's in space. Now in the film, he immediately is like let in through the door. He can see out through space and he starts getting drunk. When he wakes up in the book, he's like, something feels off.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop a facility or something like that.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna drop this pen. It falls slightly weird. I'm now going to do some equations as to why this pen is falling at this rate. And he slowly figures out, I think I'm in space because the gravity's slightly off. So
how far does his memory go back in the book? Like, I don't feel like they put a timestamp on that in the movie. It's just like...
So, I don't think they're explicit about this in the film so much. But in the book, they're very detail orientated on being put into a coma, and only certain people can be put into a coma and wake up after spending so long in one, and it's a gene thing and all this kind of stuff. So throughout the book, you think that is why he's lost his memory, but it's not even that. It's a drug that Strat gives him, and she says, I'm going to drug you with this, and you're not going to remember why you're there, so that you don't have a complete mental breakdown when you wake up on the Project Hail Mary. But your colleagues, if they survive, obviously we know they don't, will think that it's just the effects of the coma wearing off. But you will not figure that out until you've figured out how to save the planet, and that is what I'm betting on. And she's right.
Yeah, that's risky.
It's risky. It's a Hail Mary.
Yeah. That's a risk you would only take in a book.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I can see why they don't do all of that stuff. And, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I'd want to mess with the balance of this experience of a film. I'm so glad it works for you, and it didn't just work for me because I had this kind of like insider knowledge. And that makes me very happy that I was able to share this experience with you, Kris, and have a good time with it. And it was a lot of fun. It was emotional, and it's what I want from big blockbuster sci-fi films. I mean, sometimes I want a Dune. Sometimes I want a Dune Part 3. Don't get me wrong. I want big religious spectacle, grittiness. So like I'm one of two ways.
Yeah, I'm the same, but this definitely harkened back to the childhood experiences of seeing blockbuster cinema for the first time. Why I used to love as a kid going to cinema to see movies like this. Just pure joy and like pure escapism. And I think that's the thing. Like that's what a blockbuster should be to me, is pure escapism, where I'm not thinking about anything apart from the movie, and I know I'm in good hands. Everything is really capable. Everything's firing on all cylinders, and I'm thinking about it for a week afterwards. So please, we have to soak us up as much as possible because we can't be naive and expect too much of this around the corner all the time. But it's still possible, so it's great.
Yeah. And it seems to be doing quite well, which I know we don't like to get ourselves dragged too much into the financials of films.
Yeah, I
but
haven't been keeping an eye on the box office that much, but it seems that like critics and audiences, the scores are like neck and neck in terms of like what they critically think about the film. So it seems like everybody likes it mostly.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is good. Everybody seems to be on the same page for once. This is great.
Nothing weird can happen, and then we'll get the social media reels in a month's time going like why you were wrong about Project Hail Mary and why it sucks. But I'm gonna live in the bubble for now.
For sure. And when they start selling Rocky plushies, I will be first in line.
Real rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
In terms of our review, I think that's us done. As you can tell, we're big on the film, and if you have made it this far and haven't seen it, shame on you. You should go watch the film.
Yeah, I mean, if you knew that, yeah, I don't know. I think so too. It's just go see it as soon as you can. Yeah,
100%. All right, we have a little film angle update for you, Kris. Can I tell people you're moving and getting a new job, or should I just say we'll be back in 2 weeks? Big things are happening.
We can say both. Yeah, I mean, we obviously do this as a remote podcast ever since the beginning because Alex and I, we both don't live in the same location. We live 2.5 hour drive away from each other. That's not the only reason why I'm moving to his location in Bristol, but it's a very big part of it. Me and my partner Lauren, we're moving up there to kind of start new chapters in our lives, move out of the countryside, move into the city, and yeah, a lot of big things happening. But that will also mean that there are going to be some changes to the podcast too. We're still going to be doing it like this as well, where it's going to be a remote podcast because I'm not going over to your house every Monday night, Alex, or every Sunday. But I'm sure it'll be very close to that. But yeah, so that does mean there might be a little bit more variety. You might see us in the same space from time to time, which is kind of cool. So yeah, but that does mean there's going to be a little bit of a buffer for the next couple of weeks while we work out those sort of kinks.
Absolutely. And we have to let Kris settle in to the next chapter as well. So at the moment, and don't quote us on this, but we're looking at probably a 2-week break from now. And then we might come back. It might be a little staggered. We'll see how it goes. But I'm sure it won't take long before we're a well-oiled machine again. And yes, your move will hopefully open up some new ways for us to do podcasts, new formats, different ways of doing things. Maybe we'll kind of do a few kind of video specific things just for YouTube now that we can be in the same space and do the same stuff. And we'll make the most of being in Bristol. So yeah, just wanted everybody to know we won't be here for the next 2 weeks, but we will be back. Don't even worry about that. We ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. No, we're not going anywhere. I wish. Should we just end the podcast now?
What?
No.
What do you mean you wish?
I love doing the podcast, but I just know, I think Alex could keep going for the next couple of weeks. I will just be too exhausted. But yeah, no, I'm super excited for jumping back into it. I think it's just gonna be such a, it's gonna fire me up knowing that I'm like in the same mileage radius as Alex, and it's just like we're gonna be in the same room, and like that's gonna be so invigorating. We have ideas. We won't want to promise the world to everybody. I think everything that we do like to stick to.
Yes.
We did our BFI series and we didn't quit it, so we don't quit anything. So anything we're going to do is going to be properly done. So lots of ideas, but we're going to pick the right ones, hopefully.
And we'll be able to watch a lot more of these films like actually together, which will be quite nice.
I think it's going to be quite nice too. But but will we have anything to say by the time the episode comes along, or will we be better? That's the thing.
We're gonna have to put some like guardrails up or something, aren't we?
Yeah. What did you think? Nope.
Nah, it's all going to be good fun. But yeah, bear with us for a minute. We're going to be stopping and starting for a second whilst we figure this all out. And we can't I don't want to be too taxing on Kris. He's just moved in. I'm like, record the podcast. Come on.
I know I'm very fragile.
Yeah.
I'm a Fabergé egg.
Exactly.
Be careful.
So bear with us. Keep up to date with us on Instagram and TikTok, and we'll keep you up in the loop there.
Old episodes. I'm sure you've missed some.
Yeah, maybe not the very first, but
maybe not the first 40. You want to skip those ones? It's absolutely fine.
That has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or review. We do really appreciate it. And if you want to keep up to date with us, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Film Angle.
Be sure to catch us next time for more cinematic discussions. But for now, see you later, guys.
Alex and Kris, save podcast. Fist my bump.
No.